I've always been a fan, Ben, and I'm glad to have you on.
Same here.
And when we got a chance to watch this movie, I got to tell you, like the story feels so familiar to just people you know and experience. And I'm wondering, because for those who don't know, The Way Back is about a father who loses his son. He turns to alcohol and gets the task of going to coach some young men. And this issue is always underlying. You know, was this personal in any way to you? Because you played the part so well.
Thank you. Yeah, well, in some ways, you know, it really was. I'm a recovering alcoholic myself. I know what that's like. I know a lot of people. I grew up in a family that had issues like addiction issues in it, and, you know, and that's something I'm really familiar with and I know a lot about. But obviously the issue of grief and losing a child, I mean, thank God I have no idea what that's like. I can't even imagine it. I'm grateful to, you know, some of the people who have gone through that and shared their stories with me and helped me kind of understand how that plays out emotionally and what that's like, because it just seems impossible to imagine. But really, you know, it's a story about grief. It's a story about struggle, but it's also about, you know, triumph and how we overcome adversity, and how sports, you know, are a great metaphor for that, and how oftentimes sports and mentorship plays a big part in how we recover or get past the difficult stuff in our lives.
Yeah, you know, what I took away from it is that it doesn't necessarily matter the flaws of the mentor, right? It's kind of the lessons that you're teaching, and it doesn't really present as if the kids know what you're going through. But I got to tell you, my favorite part in the movie was when you're trying to beat, I forget the team that you were playing. They were the best team. They were in all red, and you draw up this play, and you're like, you know what, Brandon, forget that.
That's right.
Take the shot.
Go get it.
Right? I mean, that's just
pretty good.
That's kind of the thesis of it, right? It's build kids up, and no matter what their troubles are, empower them. And I think that's what you come away with when you watch this movie.
Yeah, it is. It's like, you know, it's really in a lot of ways the kind of a gesture of respect to all the coaches out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great to be a big famous coach, and, you know, to be Phil Jackson or you know, somebody who, you know, who
Pat Riley.
Yeah. But really, to me, the most heroic people are the kind of the everyday people working in high schools and, you know, community colleges and places all over the country whose role is not just to help kids learn, you know, how to play sports better or win games, but really it's about, like, you know, because they're not necessarily ever going to be professionals or earn a living doing that, but to take away some valuable lessons from that experience. And in a lot of cases, you know, these coaches are kind of like parents. They're kind of like big brothers. They're mentors. There are a lot of roles wrapped in one. It really is taxing on them. But all the coaches that I talked to and did research with, even, you know, from the bigger schools out here like Mater Dei, who's very gracious and showing me what's big-time high school basketball is like in Southern California, to some of the smaller schools, you know, the coaches talked about how enriching it was for them, how much more they were getting out of it. And I really wanted the movie to show that aspect, too, that, like, you know, reaching out and helping people, being a mentor is actually just as rewarding for the mentor as it is for the mentee. And in this case of this movie, probably more so, you know.
Mm-hmm. We're talking to Ben Affleck. Good stuff right there, Ben. Ben Affleck, great actor, 2 Academy Awards, Good Will Hunting, of course. Arca was phenomenal, a couple of Golden Globes, and the movie comes out on Friday, The Way Back. It's terrific. And, you know, we want to ask you a Pat's question or two. Obviously, we got to get to that. But I have to ask you, I saw the interview that you had with Diane Sawyer. That was actually at my high school, Ben, at Xavier in Lower Manhattan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where I went to. That's where I went to high school. And I got to
tell you, if they won that game they were about to play, they were big dogs. And
we did. We won. We won the game.
That's funny.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I don't know if we won. It was a JV game. I don't know if we won.
I'm like, yeah, all right. Oh.
Hey, listen, you're a great coach. I was gonna, you know, you coached them up from nothing in the movies, so you probably coached them up from not much of my high school. But I wanted to ask you, because I watched both parts, and I would encourage everybody to go and watch this. Man, I have seen a lot of your interviews and a lot of your work, and I don't know that I've ever seen you quite as candid, for lack of a better word, maybe quite as vulnerable. Like, it seems like, you know, and you even said this in the piece with Diane, hey, I'm 47. I don't have much more room to get this right. It seems like you're in a good place, and you know that you, with all due respect, can't mess up anymore. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely accurate. I think, you know, one of the things that's important to understand about, like, for me, and I don't want to put myself out as an expert or, you know, just my personal experience. But for me personally, you know, and for the people, friends, some really close friends, and a lot of people I know who have gone through this, you know, one of the things that's sometimes hard for family members or friends to understand is that, you know, addiction of all kinds, whether it's alcohol or drugs or shopping or gambling or, you know, food issues, and, you know, there's all kinds of ways this can manifest itself. But oftentimes, the process of getting better is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's in some ways analogous to like cancer treatment like that. And you kind of go into remission, and you hope it doesn't come back. And it is iterative, and it does take time, and that can be frustrating for people around you in your life to go on like, why isn't this better? Why isn't this fixed? You're not trying the right approach, and sometimes the right approach is just try again, keep trying. And usually, my experience with the people I've known, one of whom is my father, who's been sober for 30 years, is that it just like takes what it takes. And sometimes that means like going through difficult things. There were a few, key moments for me that have been instrumental, and they're painful. It's like when some of them, I wish I wasn't having to do that stuff publicly. I didn't sign up to be like a spokesperson for this. I didn't want to be, that's not why I got in this business, why I wanted to be an actor or director. But, in this day and age, this is what it means. You have this life, it's a public life, and as long as it's not talking about, like, my kids or other, people in my life, I'm willing to talk about myself because I know that's part of the bargain, and that's sort of what goes into it. And I kind of am at the point where I'm like, I got nothing to hide. This is who I am. This is what it takes. I'm not perfect. I've had a lot of success, and I've had a lot of failure and frustration. I know what both feel like, and I know that it takes hard work. And sometimes we want to put a brave face on that and say, like, oh, everything's fine, or boom, I took the magic, shot, or I went to rehab, everything's going to be perfect. Life itself is an ongoing, iterative process of evolution and change, and it's, one direction one day and another the next day, and trial and error, and that's not the glamorous truth, but I think it is the truth. Certainly been true for me. And, sometimes you just, with addiction, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it goes away until a person's experienced enough difficulty, whatever that means for them, where they just, something inside you says, enough. It's not just, it's a bad idea for you. You know that long before you get to the point where you quit, but the addicted mind doesn't want to let go because you're soothing some pain. You're making yourself feel better in some way.
Good for you,
you got to set that aside, and then you got to address what's really causing it underneath, and that's a process that requires work. And, look, people, in my experience, people are going to talk about me and my life one way or the other. I've tried hiding. I've tried staying inside. I've tried all, I'm not going to talk about that. And now with sort of the familiarity people have with celebrities and their private lives and Instagram, and the culture has changed, and, I kind of accept that. I'm not going to go make a movie about alcoholism and then refuse to discuss the degree to which my own experience with alcoholism has informed that role. I don't have nothing against other people, Some people choose to talk about it, some don't. Robert Downey Jr., who's a friend and an incredibly admirable, impressive guy who helps a lot of people. He's discussed it after his kind of issues, and then I think he got to a point where he said, okay, I'm done talking about that now. We're going to talk about Iron Man or whatever, and that may be sort of where I get to, down the road. I don't imagine doing this forever, but like, here's this movie. It's about this kind of struggle, so I'm going to be frank and upfront about it, and then I really have nothing to hide.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly aligned, Ben. I'm glad you said that. A good friend of ours, mine particularly, but BT's as well, who you probably don't like either, CC Sabathia, because he's a Yankee or a Red Sox killer in some ways. He had his own issues with this, and by coming out, a lot of people told him, you helped me. Right, and so you're doing that in some ways by releasing this movie and then talking about your own issues. So we commend you for that.
Good stuff.
Football question before we let you go. I know you're out on the West Coast now. Is there any chance that you really want to see your former quarterback? Because he's almost your former quarterback.
Get that Vegas Raiders jersey.
Talking about Tom Brady.
Almost nothing, but go ahead. Okay.
Do you want him to come out to you on the West Coast, whether that's Vegas or the Chargers? Or where? Do you see that breaking up? I mean, it's been forever. It's been 20 years. Do you feel it breaking up? And is there some like grief that could happen because of that?
That's multiple questions. I mean, like, do I see it happening? I'm not sure. I can imagine
we
it
don't
happening.
See it happening.
We don't see it happening. I don't have a sense one way or another whether it's going to happen, but I think then there's a question of if it did happen, if we had to confront that terrible scenario, I'd want him to be closer so I could watch him play. But it was still, be said, be the end of an era. Watching the Patriots, led by Tom Brady, it's like it's inspired me, you know what I mean, personally, and I know so many people, and, sports means a lot to people. They project a lot onto it. It gets people very emotional, and, and people really invest in that, and I love Tom Brady as a Patriot, but he's also a great guy and a great athlete, and I'd root for him if he played somewhere else. I think sometimes as fans they get, like, this idea of sort of being possessive of the players. And, they got to do what's best for them and their families. And Tom's brought so much joy and so much winning. Like, when I grew up, my father was like a little small-time bookie and just made a bunch of money because people would, bet on Steve Grogan. And, that's what got us our first VCR. And it's like, the Red Sox never won. The Patriots were so bad you couldn't even watch them on TV because they couldn't sell out the games. They were blacked out. And then, all of a sudden it's like New England's just like these incredible winning franchises, and it's a whole turnaround, and a big part of that is Tom. So I think you have to be grateful, and all things come to an end. But I think he's definitely got a few more really good years.
No, he does. But Ben, he does. But you're ducking the real tough one. If he's playing for the Raiders, and and if he's playing for the Raiders, and they're playing the Pats in the AFC Championship, your boy Matt, all your crew, your brother, everybody from who you rooting for, man? The Raiders with Brady or the Pats?
I don't see it being the Raiders.
Well, he play the game. I mean, if it is.
He dodged the question. That was a good dodge, man.
The Chargers.
That's not going to happen. Chargers, maybe. I mean, I don't. Tell me, you tell me, who do you think
we think he's staying put?
I think he's staying put.
Likeliest teams are.
I think number one is the New England Patriots.
Number two is Tennessee for me. And then three, the Raiders.
Three, the Raiders. I think me and BT are in agreement with that.
Tennessee is just, they got the great running back, and they got a great offensive line, I mean, I can imagine it would be tempting, for sure.
Yeah.
These guys want excellence. They want to win. They want a great team around them. But I will always root for New England, but I will always be a Tom Brady fan.
I like that.
God, that's a good answer. Hey, listen,
I used to always tell BT this, and I still tell him this.
What, the Red Sox suck?
No. Huh. I like Big Papi. I like them. Warner took care of me when I did a story up there when I was working for the Today Show. Yeah. But I always used to say this, and Tom has spent 20 years in one place. Nobody loves you like your mama, right? When you go someplace else, they're not going to love you the same. I think he's staying in New England. That's my take, and I'm sticking to it.
They're probably not going to love him the same. That's true. I think also, what's the average career in the NFL? 3.5 years?
Yeah, maybe.
20?
He's the best. I mean,
incredible.
He's amazing. Yeah. Listen, incredible success. We hope for you. The movie, we sincerely enjoyed it. We really liked it. The Way Back hits theaters on Friday. It's a gritty movie, which I think is some of your best work. It digs into your character, your roots. It's obvious. I mean, you're a blue collar kid, even though you're Hollywood and all that.
Yep.
At your roots, and that's why we like you, man, because you do come across as relatable. So all the best, except to your sports teams, and we'll talk to you down the road, man. Okay, Ben.
All right, you guys take care.
See you later, pal. There you go.